Shout out to Dark Science. This is anatomy of a headshot. What happens when a bullet impacts your skull? The type of damages that causes the impacts and what happens with the bullet inside.
5-inch wide wound. Though it's very short, the expanded cavity does a remarkable amount of damage to the skull. This wound creates a vacuum effect, causing air to rush into it, making the cranial cavity expand, causing secondary fracture lines that spread out from the wound.
Sheesh, that's crazy. So the whole time I'm thinking like the bullet is the one that's causing the damage, but the bullet is the least of it. Is actually the vacuum that comes in behind it, the velocity of the bullet. So the bullet goes in, the vacuum sucks in air with the bullet, expanding your skull and causing the cracks to your skull. That is crazy.
Most fractures occur at soft locations, like the temples and orbital plates behind the eyes. The higher power the firearm, the more secondary fracturing of the skull, especially at more thick and hard locations like the front and back.
So the harder the location, the more internal cracks. The softer the location, the better chance of it being in and out. That's crazy. I never knew that. That's probably why people survive headshots. Like this guy got shot by his girl in his head and survived. So he probably had got shot in a hard spot and not a soft spot.
When there's more kinetic energy, there's just overall more damage. We're talking a stronger pressure wave through the skull, more external gases going into the head, more secondary fracturing, and even splitting of the skull.
So in this case, the bullet is creating kinetic energy due to the velocity of which is being fired from the firearm. When you fire the firearm and the firearm has a high velocity to it, the more kinetic energy the bullet is going to produce on impact. So which shows in this how it's small in the front and large in the back because it produced a lot of kinetic energy
Itself. This is why rifles are more lethal than pistols, not because of the weight, but because of the velocity of the round. Now, let's look at what happens inside the skull. When the bullet punctures the skull, it creates an entrance wound, about the size of the bullet. If it exits the skull, it creates an exit wound many times larger than the bullet itself. This happens in nearly all mediums a bullet passes through, whether it be plastic, metal, wood, or bone. This is because as the bullet passes through the medium, it creates a shockwave in front of it which widens. Additionally, the bullet may rupture or mushroom, increasing its surface area. As for the interior of the skull, the bullet causes the bone to bevel. The best way I can illustrate this process of beveling is with a piece of Swiss cheese. This side of the cheese is where the bullet enters and is very clean and small. This side is where the bullet exits and is very wide and flared out. This flaring chips pieces of the skull and launches them into the brain, causing more damage. Once in the brain, three things can happen to the bullet. 1. It can slow and stop. If it loses enough of its energy when it pierces the skull, it will stop in its path inside the brain, probably at the other end of the skull. 2. It passes cleanly through, or 3. It ricochets inside the head.
Dang, that's crazy, bro. You could actually have a bullet ricochet in your head, bro. Man, I'd rather just go straight through the slowest stop a ricochet because, like, that's too much, bro.
Of the three, the least common is the third, accounting for about 20% of all bullet paths. If the round was fired from a high-powered rifle, it will most likely pass through. If it's fired from a pistol, it will likely stop in the brain or ricochet. Also, interesting fact, most skull ricochets aren't like this, where the bullet bounces off at an angle. Though it does happen, but not frequently. In the majority of ricochets, the bullet follows the round groove of the skull.
What? Mind blown, bro. It don't even ricochet on the angle. It rolls around your head, bro. It sits at the top of your skull or on the side or whatever, causing more damage, tissue damage, tearing it up, ripping stuff. Sheesh.
The skull is actually very strong, and the bullet, having lost so much energy passing through, simply glides along the groove, sometimes sitting just beneath the scalp. Finally, what happens to the brain in this whole ordeal? Well, it's bad.
Man, again, shout out to Dark Science, man. We need to hear this. This is very educational. A lot of doctors won't stand up and give you this type of information, so to hear this, what happens to the bullet inside your brain, inside your skull and stuff like that is crazy. If y'all want to see the part 2 to this, what happens to the brain and how it mushes up and all that stuff, like, share, subscribe, comment, leave it in the comment box. The link to the full video from Dark Science will be in the description box. Y'all go like it, watch it, subscribe to his channel, because he gives a lot of information. But this right here just is an eye-opener, boy, to keep your head down, boy. You do not want to get shot in your head at all. Bullets beveling, causing damage, cracks, rotating all around your head, ricocheting in your brain, man. You do not want it, man. Woo! All in all, I'm Maycock Chop. This is Always Carry Your Gun podcast. I'm out.
While you was chasing dollar signs, I was steady counting mine. Trade nigga, don't play nigga. Got a little bro that's way bigger. Small nigga named Ray nigga, got big guns, he a straight hitter. Hella nigga that's down the ride. Do 7, I'm